You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology.
Welcome back to the show. Very special guest of mine, good friend Mike Weinberg, who I think only lives about less than 10 minutes away from me, is joining us today, screen to screen. Welcome, Mike, to the show.
Hey, Doug. I feel like I can almost hear you coming through the window on this beautiful spring day instead of here screen to screen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You are a busy guy. You've got two best-selling books. The new one, Sales Management Simplified. And what I love about what you're doing with this whole idea is really getting to the root cause of what's breaking down, or what are the breakdowns in sales performance. And some of the times it's the managers unknowingly, or it's the sales leaders unknowingly. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, here's the deal, and this is kind of risky for me to say this, Doug. Most of my revenue comes from training salespeople and helping to coach up salespeople. I was a top hunter, and a lot of my content and the stuff in my first book is all about how to get new business. But over the years, the reality has hit me that when I got into consulting and coaching in the first place, I was naive, and I thought I could transform sales organizations by increasing the skills of the people in sales. And what I learned the hard way was you don't transform anything sales performance-wise long-term unless you deal with leadership and culture. And so often, the reality is forgotten that it's the sales manager and it's the executive over sales and the culture they're creating and how they lead that has a much bigger impact on sales performance than the skills and talents of the sales team. And that's what kind of prompted me to write the book. And I would argue today that I was totally backwards in the way I used to approach this. It's much more important we get leadership and culture and talent management right before we get sales process right. That's where we're seeing the lift, and that's what drove writing the book.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Well, every manager that I've speaking to is overwhelmed. They've got so many things that they're responsible for, and even with the latest technology, it's like they're bouncing back and forth. How do you help a sales manager understand how to really get control of their time?
Well, Doug, the first thing you do is what you just said. You make them recognize. You hold up a mirror and say, "You are freaking out of control." I mean, you see it, I see it in our clients. We've got sales managers working 70 plus hours a week, buried in corporate meetings and conference calls and getting sucked into all kinds of firefighting and QC issues and customer service and buried with their head in a CRM screen, not leading their team, not meeting one-on-one, not doing good screen-to-screen sales management coaching or getting out in the field with their people. So the first thing I think we got to do is show them you've lost your mind, or your company is totally whacked, dragging you into all kinds of stuff and burying you. So let's at least look at how you're spending your time and even ask yourself, are the things you're working on moving the revenue needle? I mean, that's a scary question for a leader. Are you working on high value things? And then I think once we show them clearly all these meetings you're getting sucked into, all these conference calls, you're doing work, but you're not leading anybody anywhere, and you're certainly not moving revenue. And I think the start is showing them those issues. And then we can kind of paint a picture of, why don't we take a look at some higher value sales leadership activities, and let's see if we can get more of that into your calendar.
Yeah, no, great. And can you give us a couple examples of some of those questions they would ask themselves?
Yeah, let's start off by painting a picture maybe of what you and I would argue would be higher value activities, like coaching your people, right? Or getting together one-on-one, and whether that's face-to-face when you have the benefit of doing that when you're in the same office, or meeting with someone who's remote. A lot of our sales leaders have people everywhere. This kind of conversation like you and I are having. A formal one-on-one meeting between a sales manager and a salesperson, they're not happening anywhere near the regularity that they need to. Sales managers are telling me they're too busy. Listen to this, Doug. They're too busy to meet with their people one-on-one. And that's crazy. One-on-one is where you do accountability, not in a sales team meeting. You do it one-on-one. One-on-one is where you do hard coaching, right? So if that meeting's not taking place, you're in trouble. So high value activity number one is one-on-one meetings. And I really want there to be two kinds of one-on-one meetings. Results and pipeline focused, where every month the sales rep's got to face the music on what have you sold, and then what's in your pipeline. In other words, what are you going to sell in the future? And if that conversation doesn't go well, we're going to dive into activity and really start pushing on stuff. So that's the one kind of one-on-one. The other one is where we're coaching. where we're digging in on deals and we're doing strategy and we're pushing buttons and motivating and encouraging and challenging. Those conversations are not happening. So one-on-one is absolutely the highest value sales leadership activity. I would say that number 2 is sales team meetings. Another lost art, something managers now dread and salespeople hate going to, because and you know this, most sales team meetings suck. They're boring. They're not really sales meetings. They're operations meetings. They're used as inappropriate venues for accountability. Salespeople get beat up and embarrassed. Everyone leaves the meeting with less energy. Sales meetings should align, equip, energize the team. That's what a good meeting does. It makes you feel better about your job. You feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and you're leaving more energized and more equipped to do your job. So one-on-one meetings, sales team meetings, and then the third thing is working with your people. And if it's an inside sales team, you get next to them. If it's an outside salesperson, you get in the field with them. Sometimes you're brought in a video setting like this where you're joining on a web meeting. That's not happening. We're not mentoring salespeople. We're not coaching them. We're not holding them accountable. We're not encouraging them. I mean, that's why we have a sales manager problem. So if we can show managers or the silly executives over these managers who have lost sight of what the sales management function is, that you're spending all your time on these low-value activities and you're not getting to these high-value activities that move the needle, then we're going to get some progress. And that's, frankly, why I wrote the book, because it's been driving me nuts. I'm sorry I get so crazy.
No, that was great. I had Trish Bertuzzi on the last interview we did, and she wrote her new book, Sales Development Playbook, because it was all these things were driving her nuts.
Yeah, and you know what? Let me say something about your book and about her book. You start out talking about my books. Every time I go in a Barnes & Noble store, there is a giant display of screen-to-screen selling. I don't know what you're doing with those store managers and what kind of PR you got going, but I see your books everywhere. So congratulations, a tremendous book. And Trish, I love her. You know, she's from the Northeast. She tells it like it is.
Yeah.
I'm only 2 chapters into Sales Development Playbook, her new book. I've got it on my Kindle. I think it's the best written book I've read in years, and I'm including my own. And I have a pretty high standard, and I get told I write really well. Her book is so well constructed. It's so easy to read. It's so funny. It's so direct. It ties the concepts. I mean, I'm only a couple chapters in, and I've already been writing it. I said, Trish, this is so good. So that's a book everyone's got to get as well, Sales Development Playbook. Trish, you can send a check to Mike Weinberg, St. Louis, Missouri. Sorry.
That's great, Mike. Let me ask you this. Let's rewind, because we talked about how many hours sales managers have in a day, and coaching typically could take a lot of time. You know, how long should a sales coaching meeting be? Should it be 10 minutes or should it be 60 minutes? I mean, is an hour, do you realistically have an hour to be able to speak with everybody one-on-one?
Not if you have a really large team. That would be a really long time. It depends. Some managers are combining what I am strongly suggesting is the activity that can transform your sales culture and your results. And I'm seeing it in a lot of clients, the one-on-one accountability meeting, which I would argue may only take 15 minutes if done well, because you're reviewing results, you're looking at the pipeline, and then you're digging into activity if you don't like what you saw. That can be done in 10 or 15 minutes, which would leave you another 15 minutes to 45 minutes more if you were doing 1 hour per month per person. And that 40 minutes you have left, you can do coaching. But I don't know that you need all that time. I think a good coach will ask 3 or 4 impactful questions, right? And challenge, okay, where are you on this? Tell me how let's say you have a sales guy who's struggling with conducting sales calls where they're getting lost in the middle of the call, they forget their agenda, and they get off track when a prospect starts taking control and peppering them with questions. So if I've got a sales guy in that situation, then we've seen that happen, and we've practiced how you share the agenda in the beginning and you lay that out and get their buy-in and you progress through the stages of a call. I might ask that particular rep, hey Joe, let's talk about your last 3 calls. Tell me how you did sharing the agenda and how long were you able to stick to that? And then what happened maybe where you were starting to get derailed? Yeah, no.
And Mike, we talked about, these coaching, being physically present, it's not always realistic, right? So how much, and I know that even a lot of traditional sales coaches will do coaching over the phone when a lot of folks are maybe more visual learners. I mean, how important is it to have a screen-to-screen conversation where we're actually looking at the same numbers at the same time rather than going back and forth between, what I said versus what you understood?
Oh, Doug, absolutely. There's so much power. And I would say it's not for everybody. I think, and you've probably seen this too, even though you have this expertise in screen to screen. Some people, this is incredibly distracting, and it takes them a while to get used to having a meeting or a dialogue like this. But the majority of the people, when they do it a couple times, especially when they use some of the techniques you suggest, am I promoting your book or are you promoting mine? What's going on in this interview? But I'm serious. When people use your techniques and they understand how to use the screens appropriately, and you've got tools where you can look at info together in a productive manner, it changes everything. And you know, this is true for you and me. It's true for my friend. You and I happen to live in the same town, but a lot of my good friends in the sales business, Anthony Anarino, we were friends for a year before we saw each other face to face. Yeah. I'm in a mastermind group with Anthony and Miles Austin and Mark Hunter and Jeb and missing somebody, John Spence. We meet monthly online. I was talking to John Spence for a year and a half before I ever met him, and he came through St. Louis for a big client, and we went out for a nice dinner. I felt like I knew him intimately, and this is the only venue and vehicle I've been able to talk to him by for 18 months. So you can absolutely have a real conversation and feel, I feel like I have friends all over the globe, because between social media and this type of technology, things have shrunk. And so why wouldn't sales managers take advantage of this tool if you had remote people?
Yeah, no kidding. And let's take what you said even before with sales meetings, right? I know that a lot of traditional sales managers will say that a sales meeting has to happen in person, and will even restrict the company from adopting this type of technology because they feel as if the sales team didn't come into the office, and then they wouldn't take it seriously, or that they wouldn't have the same culture. What are you seeing on your side?
So you're talking about sales team meetings there, not
sales team meetings. Yeah.
And I think after this, let's talk about sales calls for a minute, because that's a whole other dynamic. I think that's probably an antiquated view. And if I'm saying that, it must be antiquated because I'm the old school guy. Like, no one accuses me of being cool or progressive or on the cutting edge of, I'm the guy still carrying around. Here, I'll show you. Here's my most important this is my most important sales tool. Like, I am old school. I'm not bleeding edge anywhere. But if you get comfortable having a video meeting, I mean, how many clients am I in? We're in the conference room. There's a chair or two right there in front of a camera, because we're meeting with people all over the world in different time zones. I don't know that you're missing out. Obviously, if we're talking like this, where's my phone? I'm not playing on Twitter, ignoring you, which we do on conference calls, right? You're seeing me, I'm visually engaged. I've learned, in fact, I've moved you where you are on the screen, right underneath my camera. So I'm trying to look at you as much as I'm looking into the, looks like I'm looking into the camera, and you're doing the same for me.
Yeah, rather than up to the corner.
Yeah, right. So I was like, how are you doing, Doug? So, it's not hard. I guess I'm saying, if I could do it, anybody could do it. You can get used to this. And I think it's foolish to think you would spend a lot of money. I can tell you what, I got a client in Los Angeles. Okay. They're as the crow flies, they cannot be more than 18 miles from Los Angeles International Airport, just straight east. Have you ever sat on that 105 freeway, going straight east and west? It doesn't move. The only lane that moves is the motorcycles that are going 100 miles an hour in the lane between the HOV lane and the stop traffic. And I cannot believe they don't die every day doing that. But that woman, she's one of the best sales managers I've ever worked with. She's got 13 people all around Los Angeles County. It could take her 3 hours to go 30 miles. How foolish. What a waste to ask someone to sit in traffic to come to a meeting when they could be at home with a cup of coffee in their office, ready, like I am right now with you, ready to go. So there's no reason to drag someone in. If this works and you have the technology and it takes practice. It's like everything else. Yeah. I hated this. I was scared of this, and I hated it when it first came out. But if it's a tool to help people manage, why would you not use it?
Yeah, and from what we've experienced before, is not just the technology, but you have to have a process, right? You have to be able to use what you already have, just in a better and unique way.
Well, can we talk about sales calls for a minute?
Yeah, please.
What we see a lot of times in my clients, it's a technology company that's doing a web meeting or doing a demo. And I've got all kinds of articles I've written. I mean, I hate most web meetings and demos because they're pathetic, because the focus is wrong, because they're monologues. because they're premature. Because the salesperson rushes to demo stage and they get everybody together, and then we end up in this broadcast mode where we're puking all over the prospect, hoping we hit on something. We're spraying and praying that we hit on the right thing. And we learned about their situation, and we demo, and then the guy doing the demo is going, and then you click here, and this is what happens, and then you click here, and you want to kill the guy. So I think part of the reluctance for greater adoption for web customer meetings is most salespeople are pathetic at executing them. And I'm curious what your take is on that, and what even if you want to share a couple thoughts of what do we do to stop the nightmare when people abuse a tool like this.
It was even sad for me to see there was a company who was selling, this type of technology, right, in order to have these types of conversations, and immediately went into that, monologue type of not even dialogue, but it was a monologue saying, click here, go here, and totally lost me. I think what we've been experiencing through this whole thing is having real conversations, asking provocative questions that make you think a little bit differently, and then when I've earned the right to talk about something specific, then we go into a visual frame, then we go into the whiteboard to actually troubleshoot issues rather than just, like you said, puking out whatever comes to mind next.
That's good. Well, man, thanks. It's fun talking sales and sales leadership with you. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Mike. You're a good friend, and best of luck to you with your new book. It's already off the charts. You've got 100 reviews now, and I know you're going to continue to do well with it.
I am. Doug, I'm honest. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. I'm a little blown away by the whole thing. I think in a few months, it'll be the most reviewed sales management book on the market after just 6 months out there. So I'm thankful that the message is resonating, and I'm hoping that even if it doesn't lead to business for me per se, I'm hoping those principles get adopted, because I wrote it honestly to defend the honor of salespeople, because I got so tired of executives bringing me into their company to solve their sales problem. And after a few weeks or sometimes just a few hours of being there, I'd had to circle right back to the executive's office and hold up a giant mirror and say, found the problem, and it's you. And you're burying the manager, and your culture is killing these people, and your comp plan is creating complacency, and all the stuff that you and I know is going on. So I would encourage people to grab Sales Manager Simplified if you want to look at where sales leadership is totally dysfunctional, and then a real simple framework for how to get exceptional results from a sales team. So thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
You are listening to the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show, hosted by Doug DeVitri, your source to increasing sales, productivity, and the customer experience. In each show, we will sit down with world-class thought leaders to discuss latest trends, innovative concepts, and ideas to keep you ahead of the curve using the latest technology.
Are you ready for more meetings in less time with less expense? Screen to Screen Selling has answers. Screen to Screen Selling is the fastest way to increase sales, productivity, and the customer experience. Screen to Screen Selling is a mindset before it becomes a skill set. Let's look at your beliefs.
Or even like join.me.
Receive access to upcoming episodes of the Screen to Screen Selling Talk Show, special announcements, and insider resources. devitri.co/screen to screen. Order Screen to Screen Selling from 800 CEO READ, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Books A Million, and McGraw-Hill Education.